Good afternoon, everyone. I hope lunch was delicious. I took a minute because I wish you were close enough for me to show you. My wife got this AI bird feeder for Mother's Day. Many of you maybe have seen them, where it's a bird feeder, seed not included, you gotta add your own. And then the camera self-activates, motion activates, and then the AI kicks in and tells you with great certainty what the species of bird is that's visiting your bird feeder. It's been fascinating. And as we were sitting here earlier today, I got really excited. By the way, I live outside of Salt Lake City on the eastern slopes of the Wasatch Mountains. So if you kind of think of that part of the country, I got really excited because AI just told me that an emu had showed up at our bird feeder. And so, I was like, well, if it's an emu, I may show everybody, this is really remarkable, an emu native not to the Wasatch Mountains of the western U.S. And I was a little confused because it looks more like a squirrel to me, but AI says it's an emu. And so I'm having a little bit of this dissonant moment of wondering whether I should trust the AI. Anyway, if you want to see an emu live eating birdseed, well, don't talk to me because it's a squirrel. Paul Bingham with Western Governors University. Sometimes I meet people and they're like, that is a weird name for a school. Why did you do that? Well, I didn't do it. But it was founded in 1997 by the Western Governors Association. Some of you, I can say this sort of because my wife is from Long Island, New York, and it was a great mystery to her family when she brought home a guy from California. They're like, we didn't know there were actual people living in those states west of the Mississippi. Well, there's a Western Governors Association of the 19 states roughly west of the Mississippi. And in 1997, they harnessed this new technology, this wave that was promising to change the world called the internet, and said, what if we tied education to the internet and created an online university? It's been an amazing adventure so far, and now I think the numbers were up there, but over 175,000 students are currently enrolled across the United States in our university. Why is this? Because we fundamentally believe that talent and potential exist wherever humans exist. Access to education that unlocks that potential is highly dependent upon access to traditional universities and organizations, and that's not always where the people are. Here in Boston, we have such an amazing collection of traditional research institutions that bring to life so many of the brilliant ideas that bless humanity throughout the world. And here in Boston and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because of that, you attract some of the brightest minds anywhere who have the means to get here. And then what do many of them do? Well, they leave and they go somewhere else. And at Western Governors University, we come to where the people are and help develop and create those opportunities for the existing ability and talent of the workforce. So while we are not a research institution, we are a teaching institution. And in the School of Technology that I have the privilege of leading, we have computer science graduates and software engineering graduates, data analysts and scientists, cybersecurity professionals, cloud and network engineers who live and work here. And luckily, because most of them are a little older than traditional college age, they've got some great work experience behind them. They're taking advantage of our competency-based education model, our flat rate tuition, and as a nonprofit, private university, guess what? We haven't had to change the way that we do business, and we haven't had to be dependent upon somebody else funding the education of our students. So we're really pleased to be part of creating the future, really pleased to be here and to be a sponsor of this great event, and really looking forward to what this next panel has to say. So let's welcome them.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the first afternoon panel of the Boston Globe's Tech Innovation Summit today. I think running throughout all of the panels, we are hearing a lot about artificial intelligence, but this panel, we're really going to talk about artificial intelligence. Before I introduce these great people of Boston who work in AI, I want to level set a little bit. I want to ask you in the audience who are here in the room, Let's see how much AI knowledge there is in the room. Raise your hand if you've ever used an AI app just for chatting or to write an email or something like that. Pretty good. All right, what about have you ever used an AI app to do any coding or make your own app, vibe coding? Excellent. Okay, and raise your hand if you work actually in a company where you're actively developing an AI project. Very knowledgeable audience. We have, of course, 4 of the most knowledgeable people up here. Sitting closest to me is Justin Whitehead, who's the CEO of Pebble Finance. Then we have Scott Weller, the Chief Technology Officer and founder of Enfi. Next to him is a guy from a little company out in the West Coast, Saeed Hassan, AI lead at Microsoft. And then finally, we have Andy Beam, the Chief Technology Officer of Lila Sciences. The way I think I'd like to start, I think for at least 3 of these companies, you might want to hear a little about what they do and how they're using AI. So let's go down the line. We'll start here. Tell us a little about what your company is doing and how AI is important to that. And Saeed, maybe you can talk about how all the rest of us are going to get AI from Microsoft.
Sure, I'll kick things off. As you said, my name is Justin Whitehead. I'm the CEO and founder of Pebble Finance. We are a wealth tech AI company here in the Boston area. TLDR, we teach machines to help you understand what's going on in this crazy world of ours and how it affects your finances, specifically your investment portfolios. In terms of how we use AI, as I raised my hand earlier, each of the members on the team, myself included, use various AI tools to assist us on a daily basis. So I will use ChatGPT to help me research a client before I'm going into a sales call. I'm actually a software developer myself, and I'm still a hands-on keyboard engineer, even at Pebble. So I will go ahead and bounce back and forth with AIs to go ahead and improve even my expediency as I go ahead and deliver new things. But obviously, AI is also involved in our product. So we use AI techniques. I want to say that AI is not a product in itself. It's a tool on the tool bed. It's a method to go ahead and achieve some outcome. We use AI techniques to help us acquire and develop proprietary data sets that are available in our product, all the way to what end users interact with. So we teach machines to explain what's going on in the world and how that impacts your portfolio. So if you are an individual retail investor, you're gonna talk to that person one way. If you are an institutional asset manager running a $80 billion fund, you're going to articulate that same type of deep analysis in a completely different way. And AI is making it flexible for that.
Hi, my name is Scott Weller, Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Enfi. At Enfi, we are the commercial lending AI experts. We are an application of AI, and we're using AI techniques to accelerate every aspect of commercial lending for banks and private credit institutions. There's $3 trillion of capital that flows through commercial lending currently, and we want to make it really equitable and easy for any business to achieve the line of credit or the other lending that they need. And we're using techniques within AI to essentially deploy what we call digital agents or digital assistants in the credit life cycle to accelerate what happens and improve the accuracy of what happens as well. An average bank or institution, when they're looking to grow their credit portfolio to better serve communities, they tend to look at how much headcount they need in order to scale, and adding headcount takes time. And so with Enfi, you can click one button and deploy a lending team that the team operates, and so you can deliver much more capital to your community, have much more impact with the same team. And so that's what we're doing. At the core of that, the question we're trying to answer is, what is the health of a business at any given moment in time, so that we can improve outcomes with credit. And so we're training machines to be able to assess any entity that exists in a community in terms of what their risk of repayment is or what their health is at any given time. And that's what we call continual risk analysis. And that's us.
Thank you. Saeed, what's happening at Microsoft? I've seen a lot of AI in my applications.
Yeah, so I'm Saeed Hassan. I'm leading my team at Microsoft AI Acceleration and Development Program. So it's in Cambridge. I'm leading the Office M365 copilots as part of this. So, anything you see, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, forms, Copilot we built from scratch. So my team has been building all these copilots since the last 2-3 years, in the forefront of generative AI journey. So all about, making sure all across the industries get empowered, with different tools, not only use these tools, but also you can build tools using some of these tools that we're building.
Andy?
Cool. So I'm Andy, CTO of Lila Sciences, and this is maybe going to be a little bit different mission statement. So at Lila, we're pursuing something that we call scientific superintelligence. And this is a new kind of AI system that we think will be able to run the scientific method at scale to make new scientific discoveries. And it's built on the observation that I love AI. I've been in AI for 20 years. Large language models are fantastic productivity tools, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here on the panel. But to get a little wonky, what a large language model is doing is it's been trained to predict the next word on the internet. And kind of by definition, it's going to give you an average response. When you want to do scientific discovery, the average response is kind of the last thing that you're interested in. You want sort of the extreme response. You want an outlier. You want something that has never been seen before. And so what we're doing at Lila is we're taking large-scale AI model training that we're building in-house and pairing that with an autonomous scientific experimental platform so that the AI model can ask and answer its own scientific questions. So it can propose a new experiment to test some hypothesis that maybe it read about in a paper, then go and autonomously answer that, get the result from the experiment, and update its understanding of the world. And we think if you scale both the computing side, which we've seen a lot in AI, that being a very successful paradigm, if you pay equal attention to scaling the experimental side of things, you're going to have a very powerful AI scientist system that's going to be able to pull discoveries from the future into the present. And that's what we're working on at Lila.
Thanks so much, and all of this again in the Boston area. So we're hearing about your investment portfolio, lending to big companies, the apps you use every day to write and calculate, and perhaps new scientific discoveries. So the question that often I hear from readers is they're a little worried about AI, and they want to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing and not making things up or confusing a squirrel and an emu. So I wanted to ask each of you, in very different contexts, how are you going about the process to make sure that the AI is acting as intended, doesn't introduce errors or biases or other things like that? I guess we can go down the line.
Sure. So in financial services, especially when the target audience is a retail investor, accuracy is huge. There are two regulatory bodies that govern a lot of financial services, the SEC and FINRA. And then our clients are, in this case, are online brokerages themselves. So you're also working in partnership with the legal risk and compliance teams of these firms. Everyone cares about accuracy. And lo and behold, LLMs specifically are horrible at it. We have a human-in-the-loop process, so kind of like stepping back and thinking about a product of what we do. One aspect of what we're doing is generating narrative explanations for what's going on inside companies, funds, ETFs and mutual funds, or the individual portfolio. We produce about 10 to 15,000 of these explanations each and every day. Each and every day we have a human-in-the-loop process that is manually reviewing output, and we've trained additional machines to go ahead and base themselves on that human, such that every single thing is actually evaluated either by human or by machine before it ever sees any retail investors' eyeballs. And with that, we've actually been able to increase the accuracy and efficacy of these explanations up to about 99%.
Scott, in lending decisions, we often worry about bias in addition to errors. I'm curious, how are you going about making sure the AI does what it's supposed to do?
When we set out to build a company, we said we were going to find the truth in all things financial, because that's at the core of understanding the health of a business or an entity. And we set off to build, at the core, a benchmarking facility that allows us to really understand what truth looks like. And truth can be very, subjective to a variety of, but depending on the context. And sort of look at this from two different angles. One is the technical angle. So we continue to invest in a way to build feedback loops, both with human in the loop, but also with machine assessment to determine whether or not we can detect variations in accuracy, and we understand what accuracy means. But there's always a qualitative and quantitative version of the truth. So what we try to do is we also try to inject that qualitative, like in an office environment, in an institution, some decisions are made because of other factors that we can't measure. Right now on the human side, we're, all of us, I call it the interview phase of AI agents. Because in an interview, when you bring a new team member on, let's say you're hiring a junior analyst, you pressure test them with the harder things. You know, you say, how would you solve this problem? But certainly when they get through that acceptance criteria and you put them to work, you're not giving them necessarily the hardest project and leaving them by themselves to do that project. So if you kind of look at accuracy through a human lens, yes, we should be pressure testing with the most complicated and most sophisticated workflows, but at the same time, when we're putting them to work, our expectations should be adjusted to sort of what does a junior analyst do, or what does a junior worker do? Because in a lot of cases, these models are evolved to the point of achieving things that, say, a 6th or 7th or 8th grader can achieve. And we'll see that progress over time. But we should definitely set our expectations when we're putting it to work and we're trying to sort of imply accurate decisions. So our human-in-the-loop approach allows us to sort of close that gap over time. And as the models improve, we'll get closer and closer to human-level accuracy.
Go from 8th grade, 9th grade.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sadid, you are probably seeing the most usage of anybody on this panel, and I'm curious, how are you seeing the error rates? How are you ensuring that the co-pilots act intelligently and don't make things up?
Yeah, good question. So I can speak for hours for this topic, right? So I think just to echo Justin and Scott, so evaluation happens across the life cycle of the product development as well as deployment, and not even finishes after we deploy these models or tools, but also we get real-time feedback from the users, if things are working or not, right? So for example, I'm leading some of the evaluation efforts, and some of those are really subjective, right? So still you need humans to build these models and evaluation metrics and get feedback from the humans to incorporate into model development and fine-tuning these models in a way that makes sense for your own users. So that happens before you deploy the model, and then not only using deep learning or large language models, because we are also building multimodal models, small language models for deploying into the PCs or even smartphones. So it's like whole new paradigm of pushing these models into making them state of the art, fine-tune those based on the use cases that you want, and also collect feedback. And before this all happens, right? So it's the one-liner that I used to say all the time is like, model is not the product, right? So it's not even about deep learning or large language models or generative AI. We have the guardrails across, from start to finish, even starting with understanding the intent, right? So the large language models are very good at understanding intent right now, but sometimes, these are autoregressive models because they also hallucinate, right? So you don't understand like what's happening because, it's something, if the temperature is variable based on, if you want to make it more innovative, so it can hallucinate more, and something that we may not also understand, right? So we have controllers across the board to make sure that happens as you expect. Starting from prompt engineering, so we have red teaming going on before we deploy. So that's why some of the tools that we are using, I have it available in my laptop, may not be available publicly because we go in circular rings. So we, across the teams, we first use it at scale within our inner rings before we make sure that is really scalable publicly. So we have those red teaming, really making sure all the kind of biases are prevented or not.
Thank you. Andy, what you're doing is a little different. You're almost kind of looking for creativity in the model, right? How do you make sure it's doing what you want and not doing boring stuff?
Yeah, I think the abstract principle of everything I've heard so far that I 100% agree with is like trust but verify. And so these are amazing tools that are good at generating solutions to hard problems, but you need the ability to verify that. If you're writing an email, you want to make sure that the person's name is correct and all of the details are correct. If you are writing code, you want to be able to ensure that the code is correct. And for us at Lila, that's why the experimental side is so important, because a model could tell us that it has a new promising a target for a hard-to-drug cancer, we need the ability to verify. We essentially say to the model, prove it. And that's what the experimental side of Lila is focused on. And it turns out that nature's like a really good verifier for a lot of interesting questions that you'd want to ask. Again, even, I'm also an academic. When students are working with me and they're using large language models for the first time, I always say trust but verify. You have to be able to verify something that they have created is either right or wrong, because their error rates are still high enough that if you blindly trust everything that they put out, those errors are going to pile up, and eventually you're going to get what's called AI slop. I don't know if that's a term of art that everyone's familiar with, but it refers to the fact of using AI over and over and over again, and these errors just continue to accumulate.
Yeah, we don't want that. We have 4 people here today who are all working in Boston or whose companies are in Boston. But we know that some of the biggest AI companies are elsewhere in other countries or on other coasts of America. I'm curious, maybe we'll start at Andy's side about what's the strength in Boston, what's bringing you here, and how optimistic are people that Boston can maintain a strong effort in AI?
Yeah, I maybe have a slightly different answer here. So it's true that, like, let's just name names. Like, the Bay Area has been the epicenter of AI for the last 10 years. Actually, Toronto, Canada was the epicenter of AI first, and then all that talent migrated to the Bay Area. And I think that made
The fog today.
Yeah. I think that made sense when AI was still like purely within the realm of tech, but it's no longer something that's just like a computer science curiosity. Several Nobel Prizes were awarded in different disciplines this year for AI. It is a scientific field, and the good news for us in Boston and Massachusetts is that we are a scientific powerhouse. And so I think that the next like AI revolution in science specifically has to happen in Boston, just because we have a density of quantitatively trained, super smart scientists that I think are going to take on sort of the next mantle of the AI revolution.
And those were Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry
Exactly.
or AI. Sadid, what do you think about Boston? I know you have maybe mixed loyalty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my team is based in Cambridge and also in Seattle, Redmond. So the reason we actually started my team in Boston is because of the incredible talent that we have. So it's 8th year now in this program. The goal of this program is to get the best talent from academia. So the name is Microsoft AI Development and Acceleration Program. Our goal is to hire these best talents, and then they stay with my team for 2 years. It's kind of a rotational program where each 6 months we try to tackle the hardest of the AI ambitious problems. And then after 2 years, they join into one of the product teams that we work with. So it's kind of making Microsoft as an AI-first company that we envisioned since 2018 when we started also collaboration with OpenAI. So we had that vision, like how to really accelerate the talent and grow them to that next generation of AI talent.
Scott, there's a few financial services companies in Boston. So is that part of the play there?
We were going to make Boston, building off of the sort of great financial services institutions that are here, we're going to make Boston the center for agentic financial services AI development. As one of our missions at NFI is that if you're going to work with AI agents or in AI and you're going to do research on how to build solid systems for the financial services institution, you're going to start in Boston. And it's for the reasons that the gentleman to the right of me just described. Sort of it's the research institutions we have here. The PhDs that work at NFI are some of the best in the world for what we're doing. And I think that's because we are in Boston and we started in Boston. And so I think we should continue to build upon that. It's hard to compare us to Silicon Valley. I think it's hard to compare the uniqueness of Boston, the cultural, I would say, opportunities that exist in Boston. If you look at the numbers, individuals that come to work for your companies in Boston are much more committed over time. And so it's really an opportunity to build a great core team that's going to scale the company moving forward.
Justin, what's the draw of the city? The Red Sox?
Sure. I think I'm not a Boston sports fan. I'm not a sports fan. That's what happens.
You did not raise hands about that.
Yes. I think Boston uniquely has the magic ingredients, the magic cocktail for verticalized AI. So if you think about it, one of the consistent themes here has been talent. We've got some of the best universities in the world, producing some of the best academic minds in the world. And that means there's a nice, young, vibrant base of intellectual capital that is right here in our backyards. Admittedly, and I was just speaking to another individual, how like we have kind of a barbell-shaped talent pool. Like, you know, late 20s, maybe you go to Silicon Valley, maybe you go to New York or whatever, but then you end up boomeranging back to the Boston area as well. And that means the breadth of industries that we have here between financial services and biotech, you've got some really super experienced folks combined with that magical talent that's coming straight out of colleges. And we've got this unique combination that really helps AI find a home to finding solutions in particular verticals.
We just have a minute left. We have a question from the audience. I'm not sure, Sadid, maybe you can answer this. Someone's asking about, with the power of AI, are there risks facing from cybersecurity or fraud from bad actors? I'm curious, do you see in Copilot, are people trying to do bad things too, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. You know, these models, they're, you know, obviously we are building these models, and as I mentioned, like it takes a village to really deploy them into products, because you need lots of guardrails, because these models are limited, right? Because they're learning from observations, right? They're learning from the training data from all of us, what we are doing, right? So all, you know, let's say large-scale internet data, be it in text, image, code, all different modalities. So definitely that's a risk. So that's why we have those guardrails. So we do lots of rigorous testing before we deploy, and we get feedback from the users, okay, you know, how they're, and also we can see the signals, like, okay, if some anomaly is happening in some services, if there is any denial of service happening some places. So just to give you an example, like, you know, these models, if you think about the conversational models, right? So the models are very good at conversation. They're built as question answering systems, right? So you can ask questions and they're very good at answering you. And they're making sure that they're aligned with what you are asking. So that's why they're very nice to you, right? So that's the reinforcement learning, human feedback working. So, but the thing is, even if we have guardrails, right? So we train, we make sure that the models are not responding to something that is harmful, right? But we have seen people actually trying and asking in different ways so that you can actually get the answer out of it. So that's why we have like more and more sophisticated deep thinking and reasoning going on behind the prompts that we have, so that we can actually foresee what kind of things that might come up. So,
all right, thank you for that audience question. That is the time we have today. Could I please have a big hand for our excellent panel today? Thank you.